call to order the regular meeting of the City Commission for Tuesday, January the 12th. If you would do me a favor and please silence your cell phones. And I'll be the first to say, at this meeting at least, Happy New Year to everyone. Good to see everyone again. To the Commission, this will be the first reminder. There may be others as we adjust. This is a new audio system, and what I'm hearing is it works well. It's better for the audience because they're actually hearing it through the piped-in speakers, but you do have to be close to the mic, so I don't think you can. This game doesn't work as well on these speakers, so you can't sit way back. You got to get up in the mic. So if you see me pointing at you, please speak into the mic so that the audience can hear us. All right, with that, if you would call the roll, Kelly.
Mayor Owen.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sachs.
Here.
Commissioner Colodi.
Here.
Commissioner Hartman.
Here.
Commissioner McGurk.
Here.
Thank you.
In just a moment, we'll have an invocation and pledge. Before we do, I just want to acknowledge the loss of someone of significance in New Smyrna this past week, January 10th, Lucille Hathaway, at age 99, former Mayor Jim Hathaway's mother, and the spouse of former Mayor Bill Hathaway. Jim's father had been mayor before. They had been married for over 70 years. He passed away several years ago, and Lucille passed away this past week. A lot of accomplishments, a lot of involvement in the community, lifelong member of the First Baptist Church, Sunday school teacher, a member of the Women's Club, active with the Girl Scouts, Pink Lady. She was a kind, loving, and gracious lady, and she will be missed by all who knew and loved her. So if you remember the Hathaway family as they go through the grieving process this week. And with that, we'll have Ms. Laura Berg give an invocation, and then if you would please remain standing after for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We need your guidance, your wisdom, and support as we begin the task of making important decisions that impact our residents and visitors to our community. Bless our leaders that they may use their best skills, resources, and judgment with regard to matters placed before them tonight. Direct and protect all who serve our community faithfully day in and night to protect and honor our well-being. We ask that you be with the Hathaway family as they grieve, and for all of us who experience any loss at this time. May we all, as leaders and citizens of New Smyrna Beach, choose to engage in healthy discussions tonight, to respect our differences, to validate the worth of every life represented here, and to strive for unity throughout our community. Bless and strengthen our efforts to become more aware and educated in ways of ending injustice in all its forms, so that hope and freedom can be restored. As we work together for the common good of all, guide our hearts to your storehouse of peace, and our minds to your spirit of unity and charity. In all the holy names of God we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Khaled, any changes tonight?
Yes, sir. I have one change, but it's 3 items, 8F, 8G, and 8H. These were not advertised, and it's a comp plan, and we have not heard back from the states. And I would like to move them to the February meeting, February 9th.
Okay. So if you're here for items 8F, G, and H, we have not heard back from the state, and which is a required precursor, so we're going to continue those items. And also, If the commission doesn't object, I would propose we move item 8M, which is the contract, a UC contract, and I believe there's a rep from the UC here tonight. We have that buried pretty deep in the agenda after some pretty meaty items. I'd like to just get that rep back out serving the UC's business. So any issues with moving that right up after the consent agenda? That's item 8M. Hearing no issues, we'll move item 8M to be considered right after the consent agenda. Okay, next item up, we have a proclamation related to human trafficking awareness. Those folks in the audience here for that item can join me. Okay, that was good. So we have advocates from the police department here with us today, and some gentlemen here from Bikers Against Trafficking, and they'll speak to you in just a moment. So the city of New Smyrna Beach is doing a proclamation today to proclaim Human Trafficking Awareness Day. This is a proclamation I hope one day we don't have to do anymore. It's amazing that in 2021 we're still doing this proclamation, but hopefully with the good effort of folks like yourselves and you all and many others in the community, we can put an end to this terrible thing in our lifetimes. It says, whereas human trafficking is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of forced labor or sexual servitude. And whereas human trafficking is a $32 billion a year global criminal enterprise and is a crime as well as a civil and human rights violation. And an estimated 25 million people are currently victims of human trafficking for both sex and labor. Whereas human traffickers prey on their victims by promising a life of hope and greater opportunity while delivering only enslavement. Instead of delivering people to better lives, traffickers unjustifiably profit from the labor and toil of their victims, who they force through violence and intimidation to work in brothels and factories, on farms and fishing vessels, in private homes, and in countless industries. Whereas New Smyrna Beach is a vibrant city home to over 27,000 residents and hosts to 8 million guests who have the right to hope, freedom, economic security, safety, and the pursuit of happiness. And this month, we do not simply reflect on this appalling reality. We also pledge to do all in our power to end the horrific practice of human trafficking that plagues innocent victims, not only around the world, but in our own neighborhoods. Whereas more awareness and education is crucial to eradicating human trafficking in our communities, state, and nation. And I want to pause. This is something that is okay to talk about. If you see something in an airport, in a rest stop on the interstate, this is something that is okay to talk about. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to get involved. I'd rather be wrong and a little bit intrusive than to be right but have done nothing. So it says, whereas Human Trafficking Awareness Day is observed on January 11th in municipalities across the country in order to educate the public and raise awareness about human trafficking. And the city of New Smyrna Beach has a strong commitment to social justice. Now, therefore, we do proclaim January 12th, 2021 as Human Trafficking Awareness Day in the city of New Smyrna Beach and urge our residents, agencies, and champions to support efforts and take action to end human trafficking. And I've set my hand this 12th day of January 2021. We have a couple, there's many organizations that address and tackle and provide different services in this. We have a couple representatives from one of those that are here with us tonight. I'll tell you just briefly about what they do for this cause, and we'll take some pictures.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Huck Mallory, and this is Flip Tumorello. We are with Bikers Against Trafficking. I'm the president of the Mid-Florida chapter, and Flip is our vice president. We're also members of the board of directors for the international chapter. We're a 4-year-old organization, but our local chapter is boots on the ground for this area. A lot of misconceptions about human trafficking, but the one thing that you need to know is that Florida is rated number 3 in activity in human trafficking. And 85% of the people that are trafficked in the United States are American citizens. It is close to home. It is in every neighborhood, in every school, and we're here to try to help one. And if we can help one and get them off the streets into a home, get them started on a new life, then we're going to help one more. We need your help. If you see something, please say something. The number that you need to know is 888-3737, 888. Real simple, 888-3737, 888. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also say, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but 911 is also a good number to call if you see something, to say something, and they have connections to these other advocacy groups. So if you can't remember that number, 911, local law enforcement's also well versed in this. So, all right, we'll take some pictures, Phil. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. I believe, too, it wasn't on the agenda, but I think our fire chief is here, and we wanted to just give the community a quick update. The question that we've probably all received the most this week, in the past couple weeks, has been around vaccinations. When are they coming to New Smyrna? When are they coming to Volusia County? Who's doing what? So we just wanted to hit that right off the top and let Chief give us an update on everything we know to this moment.
Well, good evening. Thank you for taking a few minutes to let me go over this real quick. I really want to get information out to the public to allow them to know what steps we're taking, what we're working towards, and who we're partnering with to get people the vaccine, those who choose to take it. Real quick, Volusia County at a glance, we presently have 25,000 cases in Volusia County. That's about the population of New Smyrna, if I'm not mistaken. The 500,000 people in Volusia County, 25,000 have been tested and come down with COVID at some point. Next slide is fine. And I'll email you all this information. This is our Randa from Volusia County's daily brief. Volusia County, 25,000 cases, 1,300 in the hospital. Capacity right now at the hospital is about 10%. So hospitals are holding their own. They're doing pretty well. So there's no big concern like we were having early on. I think it was March we had quite a big problem with the hospitals. They're definitely managing that quite well. Next slide. Demographics, like I think you're all aware, 65 and older is our most at-risk population. They tend to have the worst reaction. They tend to have more cases than anybody else. So unfortunately, Volusia County, just like everywhere else, 65 and older is what we're really concerned with. And we'll talk about that in our vaccination protocol in just a minute. Next slide's fine. And then Florida and Volusia County are running pretty parallel as far as the trends. There's no deviation between Florida and Volusia County. You'll notice when she rolls to the Volusia County one right now, you'll see it's pretty much the same. There is a significant spike at the tail end here, and these are all considered new cases in Volusia County, not repeat tests or things like that that are recurring, if you will. And that's almost not worth looking at for the sake of New Smyrna, because if you look, our zip code runs all the way out to past Samsula. So that's a really hard thing to use as an indicator of what's going on in New Smyrna as far as population goes. Geographically, it just doesn't work for us. So very good. We've been testing at Live Oak Center at 1,000 Live Oak. For those in the audience and listening online, the testing at Live Oak behind the city or behind the Volusia County Library on US 1 is in place. It's 7 days a week. We're probably going to have the test site open for the next several months. We've already contracted with them. We have agreements with them. They're going to be here for quite a while doing testing. For those who haven't participated in the testing, it is far easier than you could ever imagine. The 2 times I've been down there, it was less than 10 minutes. I walked in, swabbed, and walked out. And I wasn't wearing this uniform, so it was not special privilege or anything. It was just how efficient they are down there. So anybody who has any concerns, flu-like symptoms, fever, feeling weird, anything, go down to 1,000 Live Oak behind the library, and the test will, hopefully, if there's no lines, will take you less than 10 minutes, and it's free. That's going to be ongoing for quite a while. We've been partnering with Volusia County, or with Florida Health Department, Volusia, since the beginning of this thing. They have been the lead agency in all of this, with the testing, with the guidance and things like that. Most recently, we've worked with them to develop a drive-through vaccination clinic. Had a lot of logistics involved in that, and got a lot of things in line to make that happen. And unfortunately, the vaccine that was promised to them by the state never made it to the Volusia County Health Department, and as such, it never made it to us. We were anticipating 1,000 doses on a Monday and 1,000 doses on Tuesday, and we got 0 on both days, and hence the lack of advertising that you guys saw. We held back on advertising and letting it out there because we knew that might be a possibility, and unfortunately it did manifest itself that way. The majority of the vaccination is now going to be run at the Volusia County Fairgrounds, also by appointment only. Volusia County Emergency Management is handling that, so if anybody wants to log in to Volusia County Emergency Management, they will have the online registration. Right now, they still don't have vaccines, so they have 500 available for distribution on Thursday. Those spots are open tomorrow morning, and there's only 500 of them. And there's no guarantee that those are going in the arms of Volusia County residents, or even Florida residents for that matter. If somebody wants to drive from Alabama to get a shot, they can. And there's nothing that we can do to stop them because it is a federal project, and that's just the way it works. So, there's no guarantees that the 1,000 or the 2,000 that we were promised are going to get in the arms of New Smyrna residents or Volusia County residents for that matter. Coupled with the fact that all the inoculation that's been done so far, 5,000 I think was the number, in Volusia County, that has to be followed up with a second dose. So any vaccine that's now coming down the pike for any distribution is almost promised to these folks who need a second dose come February. 28 days is the recommended dose gap on that. That said, they're getting them in as quick as they can. I don't understand the mechanism or the lobbying or the politics that go along with trying to get them in Volusia County, but I know they're trying. When they become available, when a large number has been distributed at the fairgrounds, and that starts to quell a little bit, they're going to start doing pop-up sites again. You'll see, I believe on the agenda we have an agreement coming forth that is a limited use agreement with the county. There is no date on that. So at any point, they could call me, they could say, hey, we can do one tomorrow, and we could make it happen. So we're definitely open to that opportunity. We're going to do our best effort to get some shots in people's arms because that's really what's going to help spin the tide on this whole thing. And, of course, I'll be here for questions from either public participation or from you folks for the rest of the evening.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. So what you all heard tonight in summary is really that's being pushed down from federal to state to county level. We're involved only in that we're doing two things. We're lobbying to try to get a pop-up site in New Smyrna. We thought we had one secured. We were all ready to go, had the signs ready, literally on standby, and that fell through. And that's really no one's fault. It just is, probably is somewhere along the way, but it's no one locally's fault. So what we're doing locally is we're trying to get a site here, and we're on standby. We got the provision in place today, and we're, as you heard the chief say, if we're able to secure that in New Smyrna, we're going to make that available. But even then, it will still, as far as the registration and everything, be run through the county's system. So it's not like I can box those in and say those are good for New Smyrna residents only, but we certainly would have those here. And I encourage you, stay tuned into the Volusia County Emergency Management website and their different resources. Last I heard, when they had those vaccines, they were, it was like a concert ticket to the Beatles. It was like they were out in 2 or 3 minutes, all the slots. So, hopefully as we get more doses in the pipeline, that will get better. But no, we are, our staff and all of our good folks are fighting to get that into New Smyrna as best we can. We are fortunate to have the testing site here. We're the only one in the county that is a free site like that run by the state, and it is well run. I can tell you, a very well run program. So we have the agenda item later, gentlemen, but any questions at this point for Chief? Okay, thank you,
All right,
Chief.
very good, thank you.
All right, next item up is your turn to speak. So this is public participation. This is your chance to speak to any item on the agenda. Note that the items that are under second reading and public hearing, so it'd be any of the ordinances under Section 8, those are all public hearings. So you can speak to those, and I would prefer actually you speak to those at that time on that specific item. But if there's anything on the rest of the agenda, the consent or otherwise, or just otherwise on your heart and mind, this is your chance to speak to us. You will have 3 minutes. There's a timer over there. If you would approach the podium and give us your name and address for the record. Yes, ma'am. Come ahead. I see some brave soul in the very back. Come right ahead. If you would like to speak after her, if you want to come ahead down to the front and save everyone some time, please feel free.
Hi, I come to you today. My name is Eileen Green. I spoke earlier today with Kelly. I come to you today as a concerned citizen. I live in New Smyrna at 617 Doris Street. I come with a concern as a concerned citizen to the neighbor next to me at 615 Doris Street. The property has been a nuisance property for many, many years. When we looked it up earlier, there's 2 houses on the property, the front one and the back one. The back house was condemned in 2017. We're not really sure what happened with that. I have several concerns, called code enforcement many, many times, law enforcement many, many times. There's only so much we can do when they come out. I understand that. This is just an ongoing situation that has impacted my life, my family, so much. But not only mine, our whole neighborhood, our whole street. We have children. We have children that play. This house has become a boarding house. I'm not really sure where that falls in with compliance, and this is why I come to bring it to everybody's attention today. They are renting rooms. The owners of the property do not live here. They live out of state. The one owner that did live there, unfortunately, passed away in a car accident several years ago. He's still listed on the property, and he has been since deceased. I understand his parents still own it that live in another state. I come to you today for help, for reaching out. There's drug activity. We witness prostitution. I have cameras all over my house. I have children. I have a grandchild that lives there. I have safety concerns, and it's out of our control. It's out of our hands. Also, I think besides the illegal activity, I can't prove, the cops can't prove when they come, but we definitely know that there's something going on. The person who runs the place, she just rents herself. I called code enforcement today. I left a huge message about the broken windows, about the wires hanging. We fear for retaliation on our street. We are at the point where I think this is part of a retaliation. We're locking, cameras all over. And I come to you today, and I just ask for help, and I ask for follow-up on this and what we can do to better our neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you. And
Thank you.
I believe there was a letter that was given to all of us, so we have that, and I will follow up with you, and some staff will follow up.
Thank you.
This isn't the kind of thing we can solve
No,
overnight, but
absolutely
we can
not.
certainly
This
certainly
is-
follow up.
I work here, I live here, I love New Smyrna. This is out of control, what's going on at this house next to us. So
Okay.
I appreciate everybody's time and attention today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Others, someone else is coming up from the back. Oh. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Happy New Year, sort of. It's a definitely unprecedented time, and it's sort of hard to know what to say. And I really would like to compliment Chaplain Laura Berg for her very wise and supportive blessing. I think we all need that at this current time, both nationally and locally. I would like to talk to the issues under administrative items in the 7A, 7B, and the purchase of property. As a resident of about 2 blocks from the Flagler property, I live amongst the issues that are concerns of everybody. One, it is a gateway to the beach. 2, the traffic flow, particularly on weekends, has grown quite difficult, particularly for people getting in and out of the east and west streets, and the flow from north to south as people try to get off the beaches or onto the beaches is considerable. And I've talked to a lot of the people that live on Peninsula, and one of the things we probably haven't talked about is the carbon monoxide buildup of traffic sitting there. And people that are in 2-story houses said they really feel it actually in their rooms. So it is a real issue about traffic flow. And then, of course, if it's high tide, we have a problem with the direction going east. And if the bridge is up, we have a problem with the traffic going west. So it is a conundrum. The property that you have looked at to buy, my concern is I'm not sure, and I haven't seen any drawings, and just I would hope this contribute to your discussion. I don't see right now the value of that amount of property to change the problem, because to me the problem is a north to south traffic flow, with most people wanting to go to Third, not to go over the bridge. And it seems like the value of buying that would be a right turn lane. It would be helpful, but I don't know if that is the real issue. So I'd like you to consider that. And certainly the other issue to consider is pedestrian and bike traffic. That's a very busy intersection with wine walks and all those kinds of things. We already have a problem with lack of sidewalks and easy access crossing that intersection. And there is a large stormwater system there, and I don't know what complication that will bring to this project. So I just wanted to add my comments on that. I do support the purchase of the property on Faulkner. I think it makes sense for the city in the long term. It has multiple potential uses and seems like a very wise purchase. The other property that isn't on the list, and I don't know what happened to the property that was behind the Coronado Civic Center, is as far as enlarging parking there. I would think that is something to really consider. Also, I would add that perhaps in the long term it would be a possibility of taking that actually community center down. We have not maintained that center, and it could probably become either a sheltered area that could have multiple uses for sheltered parking and sheltered events. But I would ask you to include that into your consideration. So
Okay.
in these troubled times, I appreciate you going forward and dealing with these difficult issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And that other purchase, by the way, is still in the works. It'll be on a future agenda. It hasn't fallen off the radar. Yes, ma'am. I think you were coming up next, if you still want to go.
All right, I'm a little short. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. You'll have to pardon me, I'm not used to speaking with a mask on, so my glasses are already fogging up. My name is Marie Bushy. I live on 809 East 24th Avenue here in New Smyrna Beach. And I'm here to talk for the public input regarding agenda consent 6E for the Yupon Brothers request for a renewal of their one-year agreement to harvest Yupon leaves from the Indian River Lagoon Preserve, which is a diverse and coastal ecosystem located off of Saxon. You know, I've been very fortunate to live within just a few steps of this preserve, and I'm very thankful for previous county and city leaders who worked to obtain eco grants to preserve this land that is vital to our ecosystem and our wildlife. I respectfully request that you deny the agreement on behalf of the Yupon Brothers to harvest leaves of this native and vital Yupon tree from the preserve. I have some bullet points and then some follow-up. This is not a city parcel as listed in many of the documents, but this is a city park, also a preserve. So I ask that you please respect the land accordingly. And then also, according to city resolution, it is unlawful to pick or obtain vegetation from any park or preserve. I actually have a picture of the sign that is posted right in front of the park or the preserve as you enter it. Also, I believe that a private for-profit business should not be allowed to profit from taxpayers' land. Their practices are destructive in how they're obtaining and harvesting the leaves. And also, in accordance with their agreement, they are to remove Brazilian pepper, and that is not being managed or handled properly. The Yupon Brothers should be required to replant native trees as they trim Brazilian pepper. Part of their agreement is that they are supposed to remove Brazilian pepper. They're simply trimming it, cutting it, and it grows again. And then they drag it all through the trail, dropping berries, and it's actually propagating more so. Also, nothing in this agreement states how much they can harvest. I understand that they have to report how much they take, but there's nothing that says how much they can harvest. So they can just continue to harvest and take away from this natural resource, which also bees pollinate with these trees, other plants like orchids use these trees to live on, and then also birds, migratory birds use the berries. So I really just, it bothers me that the city is allowing a private company to profit and use our land that is a preserve. So I respectfully ask that you do not renew their agreement and allow this beautiful preserve to function as a natural ecosystem as it was intended. Any
Thank you.
questions?
I don't believe so. When we discuss that item, the commission will
Okay,
talk
thank
about
you.
it at that time. Thank
I
you.
appreciate your cooperation.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Laddie. I own Grace Realty, and I'm actually at the property next door to 120 Flagler Avenue. So I'm at 106 North Peninsula, just to the north. And I just wonder, how long has this been on the agenda? I never got any kind of notice that the city was interested in purchasing this property. And second question, what is the intent of the purchase? Are you looking at a turning lane? Are you looking at moving the home? Just kind of doing a fact-finding mission to find out exactly what's going on. I will say, I've been there since 2007, and yes, as the years have expanded, we have certainly seen a lot more traffic through there. But I don't think it's something that's been detrimental to the neighbors as far as being on North Beach, except on the weekends when there's so much traffic coming onto the beach. And I think there's some north neighbors that could speak to that. I do understand the value of the real estate at the north end is very high. And just looking to do some fact-finding on what your thoughts are. I also noticed that I think you guys establish value. Being a real estate broker for 30 years, you establish value through a restricted appraisal, which we don't use restricted appraisals. We use them as a value of opinion, but I would hope that you would, if there's more interest in purchasing this, that you would get 2 full-blown appraisers to establish value on this and not go by a basic opinion of value. So just kind of on a fact-finding mission with you all. Has this been going on for a while? Do we know?
Yeah, so I can answer a couple of questions now, but I think most of them will be answered when we cover that item.
I got you.
And really, public participation is meant for you all to kind of share your thoughts and opinions, and not so much of a dialogue. But I can tell you, it's been on the agenda, if you will, for, and I think this is the 3rd or 4th time it's come back. So this didn't come up overnight.
Mm-hmm.
You know how long it takes to get an appraisal, if nothing else. So it's been on the agenda for a while. And as far as the plans and everything else, I think we'll cover those details on that agenda item. So,
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
and I'll speak to the restricted appraisal part as well at that time.
And the last thing I just want to say about that is, being in the historic district there, it's not been easy to comply commercially to certain things that we'd like to do with our properties because we're very restricted and it's cost a lot of money. On the same token, I realize that the uniqueness of our historic buildings is what makes New Smyrna what it is, and that's what everybody comes here for, is they land in that spot. I have guests that stay there. They just can't say enough about how relaxed they feel, the charm of it, how it's removed from Flagler Avenue and feels like you're just in this private oasis, yet you're amongst everything else.
I
So
think you have done a fantastic job on your site, so I think we commend you for that for sure. So
yeah, thank you. And then the oak trees.
Your time is up. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Out of respect for everyone else. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Leslie Sachs, 816 East 8th Avenue, New Smyrna Beach. Earlier tonight, I gave photos to Kelly to place in your folders. I am also against the renewal of the free license agreement for the Yaupon Brothers Tea Company because it creates an eyesore within the trails and along Saxon Drive right-of-way. This trash along the street is a violation of City Ordinance Chapter 2, Section 66-36, Prohibition Number 6 regarding yard waste. I have a copy of this ordinance and photos, which I just mentioned. Please view them before you vote on this consent agenda item E. We see trashed Brazilian pepper trees along the side of the road for weeks before they are picked up. Because of the large size, Waste Pro does not automatically pick them up. I also wonder if the Brazilian pepper cuttings are propagating between our walking path and the road, thus adding to the infestation of Brazilian pepper. This private business is getting free tea leaf product while the tax-paying residents get to look at their trash. They don't pay a cent for this privilege. Yet, if a homeowner dumped yard clippings that are more than 4 feet long across from their house, they would be in violation. Should a license agreement allow this business to not follow an ordinance that everyone else must follow? On the park trail, I saw an unattended tea leaf pile on a tarp mixed with empty water bottles, and I have seen 2 employees without any identifying clothing. I have seen them smoking cigarettes over the collected leaves when loading them in their car. I remember that when this was first presented, this company said that employees would be trained and wear identifying clothes. The Indian River Lagoon Preserve is an eco-funded park for the people to enjoy, not an industrial or a commercial area. My husband and I have adopted this park and have picked up litter in it for 6 years. We used to see cardinals and other migratory birds. Now, not so much. This practice also disturbs the wildlife and the birds. Because of these problems, I would like to see this trial license agreement terminated and not renewed. But if this is going to continue, please have them haul away their own trash. Otherwise, our property values and aesthetics are diminished. The company gets free tea leaves. The least they can do is clean up the debris at their own expense. Please don't allow my neighborhood to have a trashy and unkempt appearance. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe.
I'm Joe Luback, 3587 Casalta Circle. Quickly, and for the record, inspired by the preamble of the city charter and inputs from city representatives, have put together formulated recommendations for future developments within the city, residences in particular. I forward that on through Kelly and to you. Through Brian and Stephanie, it's been forwarded on to the Planning and Zoning Board. And separately, I also emailed the Residents Coalition. I'm encouraged to hear that some of those recommendations are already in place, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Joe. Any others for public participation? All right, and again, if you're here to speak on any item that is not under second reading and public hearing, this is likely your only chance to speak unless the commission calls someone forward. All right, we'll close public participation and we will move to the consent agenda. There are 6 items on the consent agenda. We'll begin with the vice mayor and work our way this way. Anything to pull from the consent agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 6E.
That does not surprise me.
I figured.
All right. Any others to pull? Is that it?
No, that's all. Thank
Okay.
you.
Commissioner McGurk, anything to pull?
No.
Commissioner Hartman?
F.
6F is Commissioner Hartman. Commissioner Clody? Okay. With that, do I have a motion to approve the remaining 4 items of the consent agenda, items A through D?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by, I think it was Hartman. I'll take a second by Vice Mayor Sachs. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Commissioner Colodi? Yes. Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sachs?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item E is up first. Vice Mayor, sorry. It's going to take me, I'm still getting used to it. Vice Mayor Sachs.
It'll take about a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is unfortunate that we have to come to blows, basically, with the Alpine Brothers Tea Company. I'm very pleased, actually, to see his product on shelves in our city. It's a local product, a local company. But once last year, when they came before us and asked if they could pick leaves on our preserve, I instantly said, no, this is a violation. of our public lands. These lands are meant to be preserved. That's why it's called the Indian River Lagoon Park Preserve. Preserves are special places. In fact, the one that was created for our city was a joint venture. It is a park, very simply. I could get into the minutiae of the science that I've learned about the agreement. The agreement is to pull invasive Brazilian pepper trees, eradicate them, or remove them, or crop them, or whatever they had said they would do. In return, they would be able to pick yaupon leaves, which they make into this drink. Now, it turns out, one day my wife and I were riding bicycle along the trail, and we see a pile of Brazilian pepper clippings along the swale. It had been reported to me by several other residents that these piles were sitting there for quite some time. They had already been turning brown. It's an eyesore. We're kind of sensitive on Saxon Avenue and probably everywhere in the city to see piles of trash not being picked up. Larger piles of trash have to be called in to Waste Pro, and they will come out and gladly get it. But meanwhile, those piles of Brazilian pepper are being removed with your tax dollars. And all along, Yaupon Brothers gains the tea leaves. Now, consequently, this is for the critters on the earth that can't speak for themselves. This is vital habitat. Yaupon Brothers may tell you we're taking only a few leaves of the yaupon, and what we do for the Brazilian pepper has been sanctioned by the FWC, the University of Florida IFAS division, and other agencies. If you do it properly, with a very intensive effort, almost scientific industrial effort, you might gain some relief from the Brazilian pepper. But from what I've seen of the eradication or clipping, basically, of Brazilian pepper, what unfortunately has happened is we've encouraged the growth of more Brazilian pepper. Basically, what professionals have told me, professionals from the U of F, other professionals in the field, master horticulturists, master arborists, master gardeners, have said the process as I had described to them was wrong. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and they thought the intentions were good, but all along we could be allowing Yaupon Brothers to be doing more harm to that vital small ecosystem, which many of us highly value. Some may drive by the woods and never see a thing. Some may walk in there and it is a haven for them. We know it is a haven for wildlife. So, considering we had a few really bad glitches this past trial period year, I would not encourage continued use of this land for harvesting leaves. Again, it is a preserve. Essentially, word preserve means to save. And we've got to save as much as we can. This is an exemplary water body with an exemplary estuary. It is feeling the effects of more usage, and I feel it is an inappropriate use of our private lands.
Okay.
I'm sorry, these are city lands.
Other comments on this item? Commissioner Colodi. Yeah, hang on. They got to get your mic on. Hello. First time with the new equipment. We'll get the bugs worked out in a minute. So.
When I saw this item first come up, I thought perhaps it would be good to extend it for 2 years instead of 1. I hear the concerns of my fellow commissioner and his wife. I understand those concerns, but I think the problem is mainly with coordinating the removal, with the trash removal, and just our city staff in general. So I won't ask to extend it for 2 years. I would like to see it kept at 1 year. It's an organic property, therefore you can't poison the Yupon, or excuse me, you can't poison anything, including the Brazilian pepper. So it'll be a long course to remove it all from that area, but I think the service that they do provide is very good. I wish we could get the pepper removed from any number of other areas along the waterway. So I think weighing the pluses and the minuses, I think we're in pretty good shape. I would extend it.
Other comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I've had some concern about this, and I certainly don't take lightly the concerns expressed by Marie Bushy and Leslie Sachs. I think there's some things that can be done better, but I'm certainly inclined to let this go forward for another year. We also have what was important to me was being able to terminate after 30 days in the event of some necessity. So they will have a 1-year lease. I think that some of these issues can be worked out between the tea company and the concerns of those who live along the area. And I would agree that I would like to see the clippings handled differently. There's a lot wrong with that. I generally agree with what Ms. Bushy and Ms. Sachs have said. They're really just clippings, and they look like they've been sitting out there a long time. Maybe it's just some coordination that needs to go into effect between the city and those who are clipping so they can get picked up on time. So at this time, I can go ahead and support this.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? You don't have to. All right. Do I have a motion on item 6E if there's no other comments?
One more comment, please, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor. After speaking with professionals in the field and reviewing letters from the agencies that were permitting, I found the information totally incongruous. There are special procedures for removal of Brazilian pepper. They don't appear to have been followed to the letter of the science. It is a wetland, so unfortunately, well, fortunately for us, they cannot use glyphosate, basically Roundup, to kill the plant. So basically by clipping and cropping, we're spreading the plant. If you drag seedlings or branches or leaves, you'll possibly, especially when the seeds are riper, and I have found out even in their green state, their immature state, you can spread the Brazilian pepper. So in our quest to get rid of an invasive species, it's not intensive enough, and I think it is detrimental. So I wanted to share that just to make sure you guys know that they may be trying, but I think the effort it falls way too short.
Okay. So my brief comment on this would be, this is a tough one. I mean, the idea on paper sounds really good. It's a renewable resource, and look, I have some of this stuff on my property, the Yopon that is, and you can't, at least I think it's what it is, and it grows back so fast. It's got to be one of the fastest growing things out there. It's incredibly resilient. So, the notion that we have this kind of symbiotic relationship where we can attempt to stymie, we're not going to solve, because you're right, without some, and I think that was mentioned the last time when this was brought to us, that unless you attack this with some really, really invasive stuff, chemical stuff, you're not going to wipe out, you're not going to eradicate Brazilian pepper. So really what we're doing is just trying to control the Brazilian pepper. And so this barter basically was put in place to where, private local company trades their their services of clearing Brazilian pepper for this resource that we're not using and is natural renewable. We're not using it up by doing this. There's probably as much or more there today than the day they started. So it all sounds good on paper. I think we've had some execution challenges. I mean, these pictures that I see are not good. This isn't what I envisioned when we agreed to this a year ago. So I think I agree with Commissioner Commissioner McGurk to the extent of, if this goes forward for another year, it's got to be done, I think, better than the pictures that I'm seeing, in multiple different ways. I think has to look like a professional operation, to distinguish it from illegal berry pickers, to distinguish it from other things, and to make sure we truly are. I mean, look, I'm not an expert on all this. So I read all these letters of support from Florida Fish and Wildlife and UF, and then I hear from folks like Commissioner Sachs, who I respect his opinion as well on this. He's given a lot of time and effort to it. I don't want to be doing more harm by dragging Brazilian, because I mean, that makes sense to me as well. It's how seeds are spread, right? So yeah, I'd say if this moves forward, I think we do have to tighten up this agreement a little bit to say that it's going to be done. We have to put some more teeth in that this kind of stuff will not happen. I also could be in favor of the vendor hauling away their own trash. Maybe that's how we get away from it looking like this. We just say, listen, you got to take it with you. But I don't want to relocate the Brazilian pepper spread. So I'm torn. I want to support a small local business, but I also want to support our residents and our environment as well. So this one feels like a lose-lose in some ways. But so with all that said, everyone has spoken that cared to. Unless you would like to chime in, go ahead.
The only comment I have is Mr. White has provided us with some documentation, some letters of support and stuff like that. If Commissioner Sachs has some documentation to the contrary to that, I'd like to see that also, so that I can review this. I certainly think that I could support it, renewing the lease, and then maybe revisiting this in a 3-month period just to see if those improvements, we've discussed some improvements, and I think he's heard us quite clearly, and that we can revisit maybe in 30 days or 3 months to see if those improvements are made. As far as the trash being alongside the road, I've seen the same pile of trash along US 1 in front of the shopping center there for over a year and not be picked up. So I think that's an issue that maybe we should involve some code enforcement on it at times if necessary. But certainly, in my neighborhood, anytime you call Waste Pro, within 2 or 3 days, they're out there to pick the stuff up. So it's not that they're not doing it. I think it's just a communications problem. So going forward, I think we can maybe all do a little bit better on this, and because, like you said, it's truly a renewable source. And I wouldn't think that if they're in the business of using these tea leaves, that they're going to strip the trees down to where they're bare and not producing any more. And anything that you can do, even if it's hand harvesting, to get rid of these Brazilian peppers is a step in the right direction. Otherwise, they're going to choke everything out, and you're even going to lose those trees. So I think this is a lessons learned kind of thing, and that we should, I would support moving forward with, maybe a revisit in 3 to 6 months, and then see if we can't, if Commissioner Sachs has some better information for us, then certainly I'll take that into consideration at that time, because we do have a 30-day cancellation policy.
All right.
Yes,
Gentlemen.
I would be glad to provide additional written information. It is incongruent when you hear from the agency in an official letter, and then you talk on the phone with experts, you say, wait, they're doing what? So there is a gap there,
Mhm.
and I'd like to fill that so we can all be better informed. But as it stands now, it's not acceptable.
Okay. Anyone like to make a motion on this item to renew this agreement?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve as drafted?
As drafted.
Okay, do I have a
As
second?
Commissioner Hartman said, there is a 30-day cancellation in there, so we have that. Approve as is.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second from Commissioner Hartman. Was that a second, or did you have a comment? Okay. All right. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sacks?
No.
Commissioner Coloni?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
I'm a no. I'd like to have seen us put some of that in the agreement, but went forward anyway, so. Okay. So 6E is approved. Item 6F, Commissioner, is that you that pulled that?
I did.
Yes.
For the majority of this issue, I don't have a problem with, but I do have some problems with the issue of removing the trailer and the $1,000 involved in that whole process. I understand there were some issues with the tree, and the project was kind of stopped at that point. But certainly, I don't think, I mean, the contractor's the one who put his stuff there to begin with. So why we're paying him to move it out of the way is beyond me. I've been unhappy with some of these change orders because I think he is not abusing the contract, but using the contract to its fullest to inflate some of the charges that he's charging us. And I'm just not happy with things going forward like it is. Certainly, the tree could be left alone and nothing done with it until the project has been completed. I mean, we're going to bring it up. It's coming up later in the agenda, but it could have been left completely alone until this project was completed. We're already way over the projected completion date. I mean, we were supposed to be in sometime in October when we started the project, and we're already back now into mid-January. So I think the best thing is to get the project completed and get it under budget, and then we can address the tree issue at that time if need be. But I certainly can't support the portion of the change order that deals with the removal of the trailer and the convebs and everything else.
So that's RFCO number 21. That's that $1,000 line you're looking at?
Yes, sir.
And I'd be happy to speak to that if
Sure,
you need.
Michelle, go ahead.
Good evening, Michelle Valance, Capital Projects Manager. Again, the charge there is removing that and having to, relocate their storage items to get out of the way for that tree to completely come down and move the fence as well. What's not shown here, and we need to take into account for it, is they did not extend their general conditions for 30 days, which would have been a greater value. So we negotiated through that with them. Adding 30 days to the project requires their their superintendent to be on site for that amount of days as well, and that is a fair item that we generally approve because it's added cost to them. So they did not include that here. That's a lot to do with why we consider this a negotiation.
But, I mean, I was by there the other day, and there's almost nothing in two of those trailers. So, I mean, how we're going to get to the $1,000, I mean, it's beyond me that the scope of the work to be done could have been completed. They would have been responsible for moving the trailers anyway. Now we're going to pay them to remove the trailers that they had to move anyway. And it just doesn't sit well with me, and I will not vote in favor of this because of that. Okay. We have been more than fair with them, I think, in the past with some of the other changeovers, to where, I mean, we're paying extra insurance to move trailers. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but it doesn't sit well with me, and I cannot support it.
Okay. Any other comments on item 6F? Commissioner.
Well, I do share some of the same concerns. I did get a personal tour of the tree and what's underneath it, which clarified the issue for me. I don't like spending $1,000 to remove the trailer, but that's not the big issue in my mind. It's the tree. We had the arborist go out there, did a very complete study of it, and he gave us two options. One, cut it down, or trim it significantly because it's kind of off-center. I can support the resolution if the tree is only trimmed. If the tree is going to come down, I cannot support it. We'll deal with it later.
Okay, I was going to say, let's two separate issues, although sort of tangential here on the tree removal, but we're going to talk through that item when it comes up. Any other items on 6F, which is the change order approval? If no other comments.
Question, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
sorry. So Michelle, the change order is for the moving of the trailer and ancillary parts?
The entire agenda item has a lot of change to be accounted for, not just that particular item. There are credits and there are deducts. We're bringing it as a net change for discussion and approval. This item that we're talking about with the trailer removal is one piece of that discussion.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you go on that agenda item, there's a change order PDF that has a summary of the different items. And this one is the last item under the additions. The item we've been talking about, and then there's 5 or 6 other things. Do I have a motion on item 6F? Yes.
I'm willing to make a motion, but only if it includes a condition in it that the tree not be removed and that it be trimmed.
I think there's 2.
Tell me where it's going to be addressed later once we approve this change order.
We have, what item is that? Does anybody have it in front of them? That is item 8D. 8D is the public hearing to consider the removal of a decayed historic tree. So, Michelle, a question for you is, if that item goes that we don't remove the tree, what happens to that line on the change order, the RFCO 21?
The time has been passed so that the days would stay. We can certainly go back and negotiate the cost for removing the containers.
Okay. All right, gentlemen.
I would suggest moving this item till after we discuss the tree removal in that case.
Okay. Any concerns with moving this item to later in the agenda? All right, we'll move this to after item 8D or whatever it is, wherever that went. Yeah, move this.
Item 8D, yes.
Item 8D. All right, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the consent agenda that hasn't been moved yet. We agreed to move the UC item up. That was item 8M. So we're going to hear that item now. There's a second reading and public hearing, which if adopted would approve a joint pole attachment agreement. The reason that's coming before us, gentlemen, if you caught it in the thing, is because it has a timeline that's longer than what the Utilities Commission can approve. It has to come to us to approve. So they have seen it, they have approved it, and it's coming to us for our approval also. So, City Attorney, if you'll read this ordinance a second time by title only.
Caught me off guard there.
Sorry. Is it in?
Ordinance number 12020, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach authorizing the Utilities Commission, City of New Smyrna Beach, Florida, to execute and enter into a joint pole use agreement with Bell South Telecommunications LLC, DBA AT&T, for a term exceeding 4 years, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
City Attorney, do you have any additional anything to report on this?
I do not. Efron?
Yeah, he's here if we have questions. It's a public hearing. Any members of the public wish to speak on this item only? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any questions of Ephraim who's here or any discussion from the commission? If not, do I have a motion to approve or adopt ordinance 120-20?
Motion to approve ordinance number 120-20.
Second.
I heard Vice Mayor Sacks second. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Cloney?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sacks?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance is adopted. Thank you. Did you have anything you needed to comment on that?
Thanks for, it was a long-standing issue that we've resolved, so.
Yeah, no, I read through it. It looked like good work was done, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Happy New Year.
Take care.
Think of us while you're at dinner. All right, item 7A is next up, right? Am I on track now? Item 7A, administrative items and new business. Consider the approval and purchase of property located at 120 Flagler Avenue. City Manager.
Yes, Mayor. I guess I'm going to answer a couple of questions that a citizen has raised just earlier. Typically, the transportation impact fees is strictly used for improving traffic flow or improving intersections or adding a lane. We've been looking at this property probably for about 3-4 months. I have brought it back to the commission to discuss it first, and then we brought it back to authorize the appraisals. Normally what happens is we're looking at these properties, but they don't come along, especially on the beach side, so in terms of whether traffic improvement or parking. So when this property came, I guess, went out for sale, we looked at it, we authorized, you authorized the appraisals, we got the appraisals, they are restricted appraisals. We know what the values in Flagler Avenue. The owner was asking over $940,000. The appraisals, the two appraisals came within $10,000 of each other. One was $930,000 and one was $940,000. The intersection improvements, it's not going to solve the entire traffic problem there. But adding a right turn lane, that would make traffic move faster at the intersection. It gives you the ability to either make a right turn or through traffic when somebody's making the left turn going into Flagler East. When we got the appraisals, we made the offer to the owner, the average of the two appraisals, which is $935,000. Even though it was less than his asking price, he signed the offer, and this is what presented to you today. I have looked at options of what we do with the structure. The structure obviously is a historic structure. I don't think staff would ever recommend to demolish the structure at this point. So we thought about if we move it or relocate it on site, what we gain out of that. And it didn't seem like we gained so much out of it. So I start looking at maybe other locations to relocate the building. Came to mind the AOB sites and the Old Fort Park. And just for people who don't remember this, but back in early 90s, there was a building at the corner of Washington and Faulkner. That building was the first government building for New Smyrna. And we relocated that building to Old Fort Park, which is now it's the CRA Economic Development Office. So that building was relocated to the park. When I looked at the park, specifically at the northeast corner of Old Fort Park, I think it makes a good sense to, I don't have to remove any trees. It seemed like it's a wide open area that I could relocate the building to that section. I'm not asking the commission tonight to determine where do we relocate that. I'm just giving you options. And also, if you, we are working on the streetscape for Washington Street. So that would be probably a good time that we could provide the sewer for this building if we relocate it to the corner. So tonight, I'm just asking the commission to authorize us to move forward with the closing on the property, and then we could come back to you if we close and you approve the purchase. We could come back at a later date, and you, the commission, could discuss as far as relocating the building or keeping it on site. But staff is not recommending to demolish the tree because it is a historic structure. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. I wanted to address another thing that had come up for the benefit of the commission, the restricted appraisal, and we got an email on this as well. Restricted appraisal, according to the U.S. Property Appraisers Professionals, I think it is, USPAP, basically two forms, from what I was able to determine, I'm no expert on it by any stretch, but I was able to determine two types of, it used to be three, but there are now two types of appraisals. The same work and due diligence is done in both. I'm reading right here on their website. They say restricted appraisal report does not mean that the work and documentation isn't done and can be skipped and ignored. According to record keeping, the work file for a restricted appraisal must be sufficient to produce a regular appraisal report, or what they call an appraisal report. So it's not a shortcut to that. It is just a shorter version of a report. It's usually used in a case like this where there's a cash buyer, there's no lenders that are going to need to rely on the other side of the appraisal. So it's meant to be used for the client only. And in this case, we were the client, so we ordered two of them. It's a cheaper way because it allows them to just basically, they're not having to do as much of a reporting. Again, all the due diligence upfront is done, but the reporting is lower. And in checking for the state statute, everything that was done related to the state statutes that govern the purchases of properties by municipalities, as long as, so basically think of it this way, if we were going to buy a property and they said they would sell it to us for, just making up numbers, $100,000, and we went and got an appraisal that said, hey, that property's worth $300,000, the state has given us the option to be able to say, hey, we can take they call it a Section 119 exemption, and we can hold that appraisal out of the public's view until we complete that deal, because that's how you would normally do it in business. And so they've given us that allowance as an entity, and that's called a 119 exemption. We didn't do it that way. We didn't take the 119 exemption. We did it all right out in the public. And there's nothing wrong with the 119 exemption. It in every case, I think it's meant to give the public a better deal. It's meant to give the public a way to get a better deal and negotiate the way that you would normally negotiate in a business environment. So I just wanted to address a few of those things that have been brought up in email and then also in public participation tonight related to that. So, and that is my limited knowledge on appraisal, so don't ask many questions. I gave you all I knew. I think the key takeaway that from Khaled is this isn't going to solve all the issues, but we certainly can solve some issues. And if we don't take advantage of purchasing this now, we may not have another chance. And that's where I'm at. So, any other?
Just, I mentioned it at the beginning of the presentation, but this is not from general fund. This is from transportation impact fee. So it does not affect the general fund whatsoever. And we've always been criticized that the city does not look and don't have any vision on purchasing properties and making sure that they have enough sources and resources when time comes to have a solution. So this is part of it.
Okay, discussion from the commission. Commissioner Colodi.
I think it's important that we follow through and purchase this. There are a lot of questions about what to do with the building that's on it. I'm not in favor of being demolished at all. It's going to be an expensive construction project. But the key is, as Khaled had mentioned, we have to do something to look forward for these problem areas. I remember when the Riverwalk condominiums were being first proposed under 2 or 3 different names, they did a really detailed traffic study, North Causeway, all the way from Washington down to Flagler. And Flagler, at that time, which more than 10 years ago, that intersection was level E, which is the worst you can possibly get in a traffic rating. So it's a problem. It's been a problem. It's getting worse all the time. And I'm in favor of moving ahead.
Okay. I'm going to interject one of the things I just remembered. The other comment was made that what is possibly needed there is a right turn lane. Remembering, just as we did Canal Street, that, and I'm not saying we should do this, I'm just saying this is an option. You can shift the whole intersection so that as you come off the bridge, you know, the straight lanes, you kind of go over to you offset kind of left to go straight, and then you create a right-hand turn lane. So those are options that would be on the table when you zoom out and look at that with more space available to engineers to figure out the right way to do it. And I'm no engineer. Other comments on this item, Commissioner McGurk?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just wanted to stress that for years now, before even Commissioner Colodi got on, we're looking at ways to improve local road networks so our locals can get around easier. This intersection is a no-brainer, and having to deal with it not only now, but long-term. And I know that in Commissioner Colodey's district, this is certainly a big deal, this intersection. We're not going to have the silver bullet for this intersection. But we got boats every time I'm going over the North Causeway heading east. And I'm in front of a boat that wants to make a right turn on the peninsula. It just reminds me all the problems. Can't make the turn. Everything stops. We have problems. We're working on trying to address them. The acquisition of land to try to make better local network of roads is challenging, it's difficult, and it's going to be expensive. But as was mentioned, if we're not looking forward now, we're going to look back in 10, 20 years and say, how come this was never addressed? How come the city never did anything? We recognize the issue. We're taking advantage of an opportunity. Is it expensive? Yes. It's expensive now. It'll be even more expensive 10 or 20 years from now, because we know how Central Florida is growing, and we know how property values are just starting to move higher. You think it's high now? Wait another 20 years when Orlando has grown another couple million people in population. So it's expensive, but it's necessary, and we need to move forward on projects like this to be able to make it better for the locals to get around through the city in this community. Thank you, Mayor.
Other comments? I just pulled up in 1971, that property sold for $18,000. In 1984, it sold for $79,000. Is it Cher who's saying if I could turn back time? All right, any other comments on this item? Commissioner Sachs.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate Carla trying to help us work through this transportation issue. It is a troublesome intersection. I'm concerned about the cost-benefit analysis and ratio. I know you discussed moving the home. It's historic, so that will have to entail that cost. I do like, of course, situating it at Old Fort Park, perhaps AOB. But at the same time, I think we have this past holiday near the first of the year, the traffic was unbelievable. It wasn't your typical summer stopped traffic. It was just a massive moving along flux of traffic in both directions. And I thought about that intersection, and I thought, how many queues can we provide for the money we're going to have to spend to make that right turn? Now I'm rethinking, would we be spending too much money to try and address a situation that only minorly will alleviate the problem? Because I know that both North and South Peninsula back up terribly. Will that turn lane really be worthwhile the money that we spend? That's my question now. And that's all.
And that's, I mean, I'm a numbers guy. It's hard to put, I mean, I've asked that question on other projects too. It's hard to put numbers on that. I can tell you, it's not going to, as Commissioner McGurk said, it's not going to get cheaper tomorrow. And as I look at all of these properties, and I just read you the values from, and that's my lifetime. That's not like 100 years ago. That's my lifetime. I think has gone up from 18,000 to whatever we're at today, 900 and something thousand. So, you know, I guess a part of me says it's good to own property in New Smyrna. So even if this doesn't work out exactly as we planned, we can all, if we find we don't have the value and we aren't using it, we can always put it back on the market, I guess. But yeah, I don't have an answer to your question. I don't know how you quantify and put a dollar value on traffic studies. I don't know.
Well, Mayor, I'd rather buy now and get what we can than look back in 20 years and say we had that opportunity. Because if it ever gets to the point, and it will, where we'd have to acquire this property for an intersection improvement, and we approach property owners that don't want to sell, they're hitting a lottery ticket. So, like I said, very expensive, as we're growing, we're feeling growing pains. We need to be proactive, especially in transportation, because we all know when we're all sitting in gridlock, it's easy to, hindsight's 20/20 when we say we should have bought that 20 years ago. Well, this is the opportunities that we're taking advantage right now. I wholeheartedly support it, even though it certainly seems pricey.
You're bringing up a good issue, if I may. I would pose the question to both staff and my colleagues. We would be interested in buying that corner piece, and then I tried to envision how many cars can you queue up to make a right-hand turn to get onto the bridge by buying that piece. So, you know, if you bought two pieces down the line, you could extend a right turn lane to possibly have 6, 7 cars. I don't know. But that was my big question, like, what are we really doing? We're spending a lot of money. Yes, it has worth, but at the same time, is it a good, you say it's a good time to spend the money, I agree, but we have a lot of other things to spend money on. So that was my angst about that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we, in all scenarios, the house survives, but from what I've heard from the commission, but not in its current state, and so you could certainly have at least 2 wide turn lanes. You could queue up double stack, you know, go wider for that right-hand turn.
Possible.
So even if it's not 2 parcels deep, it could be, you know, a parcel wide almost, and so, yeah. All right, do I have a motion on this item?
I make a motion that we authorize staff to proceed with the purchase.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner McGurk. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sacks?
No.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Purchase was approved. 7, and I also want to be very clear for the public, that came from transportation impact money. So that is money that when a new home is constructed, they pay into a fund that is meant to help alleviate transportation issues that are created by additional residences. So that's how the system works. So this isn't pulling money that could go to address the issue in front of your house necessarily. They have to be directed in certain ways. So. Item 7B, the approval of a purchase of a property at 301 Faulkner Street. City Manager.
Yes, Mayor. I guess in anticipation of the relocation, the Development Services Department back to around City Hall, we've been looking at areas that we could have either parking or expansion. Since we lost the property where they built the condos on the south side of City Hall, we really have no area if we needed to expand. Obviously, the parking is an issue around that area. So we've been looking at this property for some time, and I thought it was part of the assisted living facility. Came to find out it's a separate lot. They were leasing it for the construction staging, and it's a good-sized lot. It's almost 150 by 170. It's almost as big as the lot for the assisted living facility. So just to go back in history, we came back to the commission, asked him to authorize us to do the appraisals. We did the appraisal, restricted appraisals, and they came, there's quite a bit difference between the 2 appraisals. One was at $533,000, and one was at $665,000. The owner was asking for $750,000, and he was adamant about the $750,000. Through some negotiation with his realtor, they came down to $700,000, and that was the end of the negotiation. He would not accept any penny less than that. Just being proactive, I think this property in particular right now, I think it's essential for city services. If you needed to expand, even at this point, the building department have overgrown its place. When they move down, I have to probably house some of the code enforcement officers at City Hall. But looking forward, I think it's not just for parking, but I think it's going to be parking and also a building that would serve the building department. Keep in mind that this purchase is not out of general fund. This is out of building fund. And building fund, it's supposed to be, there's restriction on it that it's supposed to be spent on building services. So we cannot take the money and put it in general fund. So the $700,000, it's actually in their fund. They have a healthy fund in the building department. So that's why we are recommending this. This didn't happen today. We've been looking at this for quite some time. So just for people out there, not because they're relocating today, we've been looking at this lot for quite some time and looking at providing parking. In the meantime, I have mentioned to you previously that there will be a parking lease with the church as well, 18 spaces with the North First Church on the north side of their building. That should be hopefully coming either at the next meeting or the meeting after. I'm waiting for a response back from them on their review. So with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any questions or comments of staff? Questions for staff or comments for the commission on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Calvert, have you figured out how many cars you could possibly place there?
I could tell you this, Commissioner, I'm a vice mayor. It's 150 by 170. If you divide that by about 400 square feet, that will give you how many parking spaces? It's a lot of parking spaces.
Can the spaces be dedicated during city hours, work hours for city business?
Are you talking about the lot we're purchasing or the church?
The lot we're purchasing.
Well, it would be public parking, you know. I mean, we could make it,
so
I mean, at this point, we haven't decided, but you could restrict it to city business only. People were asking about the assisted living facility that they might use it. So, I mean, we might consider to put just signage there that it's city business only.
It's just a finery to figure out. It might be worthwhile to think about for city business and or for special events, since Canal Street does have that, and it would be very welcome to have that lot.
The issue, too, is we have almost, I think, over 25 or 28 city employee vehicles, plus we have city vehicles. So if I only just use the one that we just built, which is 36 spaces, I mean, that will only cover probably the city vehicles and half of the employees' vehicles. I mean, that area is busy, and you guys, when you come to City Hall, you know how busy it is. So I think this would be, I mean, not only on the immediate solution, but I think on the long-term solution, I think it's a must purchase at this point for future expansion.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I want to stress the point that City Manager pointed out where the funding is coming from. This is exactly what these fees are for. They're earmarked for a specific area. We cannot spend them in other places. And I remember when City Hall, all the departments were at one spot. And then we moved out because we outgrew it to our property on US 1. And I've seen how that works. It doesn't work well. Acquiring the old historic building, putting the chambers in there, we have committed to City Hall being where it is downtown. For many reasons, that makes sense. This, to me, is a no-brainer. Now, I can tell you that the city-owned property across Julia, for many years, the old shuffleboard courts. During the economic downturn, the issue was people wanted it back on the tax rolls. You're not doing anything with it. It's just sitting there. It's not being used. There was a large push for this, so the city sold it. And it's a shame looking back, hindsight being 2020, we should have retained that property we already owned and expanded that one. But we didn't, for many reasons. mostly. The challenges of a tremendous economic downturn that we all remember, that was catastrophic financially for many people, and the push was from the residents to get as much tax revenue to alleviate them. We cut taxes for the residents. So, again, hindsight's 2020. I think this is again, like the property we just talked about. It's necessary. The opportunity is here to buy it. It may never present itself again. And if we have to approach private property owners, say, we need your property, future down the road, it's going to cost us a heck of a lot more than it is right now. So, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Other comments?
So I just urge you all to keep in mind that we're presently undergoing a streetscape along Washington. Somewhere we're going to have to store stormwater pipe, water pipe, utilities. So, you know, we're going to need also a staging area at some point in time. And to me, that gives us a short-term use out of this piece of property that could save us money in the long run. So I certainly support this. I think the city manager has a vision, whether it's short-term parking or if it's going to be involved in the Washington Street streetscape or a future building at some point in time. They don't make land anymore, and we have determined that we're going to have the city hall and city functions downtown. So in order to do that and to grow the way we've been growing in the last few years, I think it's important that we purchase this piece of property. And, you know, if we have another recession or something happens, we don't need it, then certainly we can get rid of it at that time. But I certainly support purchasing this property.
Okay. We have a motion on this item, gentlemen.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion from Commissioner Hartman, a second from Commissioner McGurk. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Sacks,
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi,
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Mayor Owen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Purchase was approved. Item 7C, so the temporary reduction of building permit fees. Brian.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This item proposes a 6-month relief program that temporarily reduces the building permit fees by a cumulative total of $5,000 per property. The program is proposed because it is one method available to us to provide short-term financial relief to New Smyrna Beach homeowners, landowners, and businesses, as well as helping the building fund achieve and maintain compliance with state statute. Just for reference, the $5,000 threshold, that would cover 100% of the building permit fees for really the largest single-family house that would be built. And everything below that, improvements to existing homes, small commercial improvements. That credit, if approved, would apply to new single-family homes, but just to emphasize that those homes would have to be on existed, platted, approved lots. This would not create a demand for new subdivisions. This program is too short to create new applications that would come in. These would be lots that have already been approved by the City Commission and permits that are issued in the next 6 months only. There's several conditions that are laid out in the staff report. I'll hit on just a couple highlights. It's for residential and non-residential building permit fees. It does not include impact fees, and that's really important because going back to that new single-family home, in that case, the impact fees are much, much more than the building permit fees, and we would not be waiving any impact fees on new development. Also would not include administrative fees or anything non-building would not qualify. Properties would have to be in the city. Properties in the ISBA that are in the county would not qualify for that credit. And then lastly, if code enforcement determined that work was being done without a permit, then that would disqualify that permit from qualifying for the credit. Just a couple more items to wrap up. I know there's questions on this one. The declaration of the state of emergency that was approved in March does provide the city the authority to adopt this temporary fee reduction program. It would end at the expiration of that state of emergency or 6 months, whichever came sooner. As far as the financial impact, we're estimating at the full $5,000, it would reduce revenue by $1 to $1.5 million over the 6-month period. The building department fund does have sufficient funds available to cover that expense. Staff does recommend approval with a suggested start date of approximately February 1st.
Okay. Commissioner McGurk.
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, I got to admit, when I first read that title, I had a difficult time understanding. It seemed like a lot of money. So you explained it to me, I think. I think I get it. But let me tell you, it was a little bit difficult to digest, and I want to make sure I understand. We're not giving a $5,000 credit somehow or break to some to people just arbitrarily. It's up to $5,000 when existing residents, like the ladies and gentlemen out here, need to do something in their home to pull a permit. Okay. So it's up to $5,000 of existing homes of our existing residents getting a break on permit fees. New AC change out, things like that.
That's correct.
Okay. The new homes being built, the future growth that we're all struggling with so much, this is not a break to any of those homes. Is that correct?
They would be entitled to the same building permit fee credit of up to $5,000 for a new single-family home.
For new construction?
Any construction, up to $5,000.
Okay. How many homes do we anticipate may get that credit? Roughly ballpark for me.
Last 2 years, we've had about 500 new single-family homes, so if that rate should hold 6 months, approximately 250. You may see a slight acceleration on permits. That's hard to say. Again, the impact fees are the big payment with permits, so that could be up to 300 perhaps at a maximum.
Okay. Thank you. Last question. Why are we doing this?
So 2 reasons. One is it's one option we have for relief in a difficult time. And for example, as you mentioned, the homeowner who needs to do a roof repair, hot water heater, some plumbing improvements, that has to be done now, they get some relief at least on that permit. And then there is a compliance component with our building fund with not just the expenditures that we have planned. That doesn't quite get us to where we feel totally comfortable, and we felt like this was one step to help in that direction.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that because I needed that clarification myself too. It jumped out at me as something, and when I got into the details, I understood it, and it sounds good, and I certainly can support it. Thank you.
So is this a credit going forward that they get off the top, or is it something they pay and then they get it back if they've completed?
It wouldn't be a reimbursement, it'd be a credit. So they come in, instead of paying for the permit, if it's less than $5,000, we would keep track of that expense, but they would not have to make that payment.
What happens during the process if they do have a violation where they're doing something without something that was permitted? Or
so work being done without a permit, it'd be double permit fee, and they would be disqualified from the credit.
Disqualified, okay.
They will not be eligible if they have started the work without a permit.
Commissioner Clooney.
I really do not like the idea at all. If we're collecting too much in permit fees, we should just simply reduce our fees. That way everybody would benefit all the way around. The other possible reason I can see for this is that due to the COVID problem, that a lot of people are short of money. They are not builders. They are existing homeowners who I think deserve some type of credit. So if we're going to do anything, I would change it to a 1-year program and make it retroactive back to February. If people understand that they have the opportunity to file for a refund, I would give it to them. That's a good, focused reason for the reduction. That's what I would like to see. I just want to help the residents, including the future residents, and I honestly can't see the builders passing this on to the future homeowners. So I think it's going to go into their profit margin. So I just simply can't support it unless the amount is lowered significantly to maybe $2,000 or even $1,000, and that it apply retroactively to when the COVID problems began. Reduce the fees. If we have too many fees and we're looking for properties to buy so that we could spend the fees to be compliant with the state regulations, we should do that. But I just think there's got to be a real reason to do it. And I don't see the fact that we just have too much money to give credits to a certain relatively small percentage of our residents.
Okay. Commissioner Vice Mayor, you haven't commented on this. Would you care to?
My comments are very much in line with Commissioner Colodey's. If we could grant this type of reduction to everybody, that would be nice. It seems like it's going to mostly go to large developers. They'll benefit the most. And the city, even in hard times, we want to help people in hard times. We need to help ourselves. We need to help our city. And when I hear $1 million loss, that's like, I'm not sure what we're doing. And I don't support it.
Okay. Brian, a couple of questions for you. So first is the comment that was just made. Do we have any way of knowing, other than just based on past trends, but from a permit collection standpoint, is the majority of that from new single-family homes where the developer would be focused, or is the majority of that from what I'll call the mom-and-pop permits for pools, pavers, sidewalks, et cetera?
The funding surplus is primarily new development driven. The smaller permits are ones where our expenses to review it and inspect it in many cases exceed the cost of the permit itself. It's less than $100.
Yeah, okay. It's been proposed by one commissioner to potentially make it retroactive, and so that we would be literally making refund payments to people who did have work completed during COVID times, let's say. What kind of a staff workload would that be to undertake if you can process that?
That's a significant effort. We issued about 7,000 permits in 2020. To go back and issue refunds would just the manual effort required to go back and review and issue checks would be significant. It could be done, but given where we're at in the building department and our demands, we felt like this program we could incorporate with that workload. Going back, I think, would take more effort.
Yeah. So I think the intent of this, because I had the same reaction, I think, as Commissioner McGurk to hear you say it is funny, because I thought the same thing when I read it. And I think the intent is, at least for me, the intent would be to help the little guy, the single-family homeowner that wants to do something, wanted to put a fence up, wanted to put a pool in, wanted to do something, and has held off on that, and therefore the trades guy isn't getting that job because the homeowner isn't doing it because of everything else going on. And so, if this is something that can possibly spur some of that activity, that's a good thing, and that doesn't have any of the impacts that we traditionally think of when we think of kind of some of the negative impacts related to growth. What gives me some concern is the inclusion of the new single-family residences. If nothing else, just the optics report. I mean, I'll just be totally candid. We sit up here almost every meeting and talk about some issue related to growth and development. And so I think the optics report. So my question for you is, would we be able to, and maybe an attorney may have to chime in, but would we be able to limit this to remodels, existing structures and existing homeowners and preclude new construction?
You could do that. The only caution I would give is that the funding surplus and the cause for that, as I mentioned, a lot of that was built up by new development, and with Florida statute related to this item, that wouldn't entirely relieve that potential demand down the road.
So, yeah, and to that point, that is, to me, that is a separate issue, and Colin and I have talked about this briefly. I think that change in statute and what that means for us locally and our local builders and everyone else, I think that's something we're going to have to take a strategic look at and address that as a strategic issue by itself versus trying to address it this way. If nothing else, it's going to be very confusing to the people we report to because they're not going to be able to connect all those dots, and so they're going to think, this is the headline is going to be that we're encouraging growth and development. So I think it's going to be very confusing, and so I think we have to look at the issue of our building fund and what the appropriate approach to that is, what the right level of permit fee should be, what the right level of building resources to sustain would be, because I don't know that we're where we need to be there either. So I think we have to get all of that in line, make sure we have the right facilities in place. I would take a little bit of contention. We're not just seeking out properties to buy to use the money. We are bursting at the seams in the facilities we have, and we have to have somewhere for these folks to go. So we're using the building funds appropriately, but according to the state, we do have an issue that we have to look at, and I would say sooner than later. So I hear what you're saying. That doesn't solve that problem, but I don't think it solves that problem anyway. And even if it did, I think it's a weird way to get there. I personally don't think it's the right way to approach it. So I think you've heard this doesn't have support as presented. So for the motion maker, I could consider this if there was a restriction and if this was scoped down to existing homeowners. And again, for me, the focus is getting activity in the trades and activity in the people that want to have some work done here in New Smyrna Beach, but not necessarily in the new construction space. So I could support that. I don't know what my other colleagues, how they feel. Didn't feel like we had three that would support it as proposed, though. So I'd advise the motion maker to keep that in mind.
Question.
There isn't yet.
I'm
just saying before a motion is made, whoever makes the motion should keep that in mind. Yes.
Could we get there by reducing fees across the board?
That will help, and we are looking at that. However, in the very recent term, we have added significant staff, and so our operational expenditures are up. And just real quick, our speed, which has been the number one issue, has significantly improved, especially over the last 30 to 60 days. We have been within 7 to 14 days on permit review and getting better. Now, we need to sustain that, which we haven't. We're not there yet. So I think we're almost there operationally, and it is a higher expenditure to get there. We still may need to look at fees, however.
But we've got to establish the new baseline. This, to me, the order of operations are we establish the new baseline of this is to provide the level of customer service that our residents and our local partners demand. This is the baseline operating expense. Therefore, this is the justifiable fee base that we can keep per state statute, and then we figure out what adjustment we have to make to sustain that level. I mean, to me, it's a very linear equation. Commissioner McGirt.
Yeah, I'm all for something that is a little more creative, like the Vice Mayor said, creative. What I don't want to do, though, the concern that I would have with that specifically is we have had a long problem of playing catch up. I wouldn't want to burden staff with that time issue. So I like the idea. I like what I've heard from both of you guys, from the mayor and from Commissioner Colodi. So I think we need to get there. I can support what I've heard. I just want to make, except for the one issue of I don't want to retroactively put a bunch of work on staff, so we start the one step forward, 2 steps back issue. So I'm all for something creative and a little different, and if we can get away with not charging new charging the new development, I'm all for that.
And you're confident that's acceptable, there's no kind of legal issues with that? If we carve off and say this is I don't know what that permit is called, but there's got to be some,
So you want to exclude new single-family homes.
I would say it includes only remodels and additions to existing structures.
You just exclude the new family home and include everything else. So you got additions, driveways,
Yeah.
paver blocks,
New
air
commercial.
condition.
My focus is on, even in the commercial space, it is on not new. Any additions,
So if you're-
revitalization.
Okay. I think it's easier to say what we're not going to grant the credit
Yeah,
to. So
I
it's
agree.
a new single-family on a vacant, what was undeveloped lot, the first new home there, residential or non-residential.
Correct.
A new building.
That's what I would 100% support.
Understood.
We don't have a motion yet, but that's what I would support. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor had a comment, and then, I'm sorry, not Vice Mayor.
I
Commissioner
just have a
Coyle.
question, and I will make a motion.
Okay.
When do we have to notify the state our fee status, and how long do they allow for us to correct that?
There is no notification that I'm aware of. The statute was passed. It's out there. There's no deadline or program. We're somewhat open to a complaint and following action.
Yeah, I think it's important to charge what your costs are. So I like that approach. I don't want to put us in jeopardy of doing something the state doesn't like. But as to making a motion, I make a motion that we approve the amount. I would like to lower it, but I'll leave it at $5,000 and exclude new single-family construction from it.
Second.
I would like the retroactive, and I think we could pay for it with the
Yeah.
excess funds we have, an administrator,
Okay.
but I will leave that off.
For clarity in the motion, if you would, you mentioned single-family homes. Do you also include new, I would say any new, including commercial as well? Residential or commercial?
No new construction.
Okay.
If my
So-
memory's correct, there's a little box you have to check whether it's new
Yeah.
or it's not. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I
it's-
jumped the gun on my second. Commissioner, you used the word retroactively.
No, he said he wanted to do that, but he didn't include it in the
Oh,
motion. It's this program just only for existing, not excluding any new construction. That's what I heard in the motion.
Correct.
All right.
I would like that, but I don't think I'd get
All right.
support.
Just
So
Don't
that's
confuse it again. All right. So that was the
Second.
motion. We had a second on that motion. Yes, sir.
So on the motion, my concern is what happens with one of us wants to build a new house. It's a new construction, on a new lot. It doesn't apply to us.
Agreed.
So, and I haven't heard from the city attorney as to her legal opinion on where we may end up with this. But I'll vote on the motion and then we
Do you have anything you want to add? Does it give you concern? Yeah.
Don't get many of those.
Try it again.
Hang on.
He's working on it. Yeah.
I am concerned with the segregation of the types of permits. I mean, the fund was built based on the totality of permits applied, so I do have pause. I can't tell you what the fallout would be from that.
So let me ask you, if we today were voting on reducing the permits for remodeling, would that be okay?
So I don't know exactly how the system is set up, so, I mean, in total, I see a reduction as being okay, or a refund being okay, but
Yeah, I
to
mean-
segregate out one type of, that's not the only type of permit that led to this condition.
So, to me, we have to separate the balance issue. That is a strategic issue we have to look at holistically at some point in the future. This is not about that for me.
Okay, so we're separating and we're only dealing with the COVID issue.
I'm dealing with trying to do something to make sure that our local trades have every opportunity to stay in business and serve our local customers. That's what this is for me. And it's a temporary measure. And I guess to me, the exclusionary side of it, I would say, if we wanted today to lower the permit fees for just one item permanently forevermore, to say, this permit's going to go down by $10, we could do that. So what's to stop us from doing it all the way to zero for 6 months?
If we're going to talk about them separately and we're just talking about COVID relief and we'll punt the other discussion to a different item, a different day.
I think we have to.
You have a lot of leeway in what you can do.
This is COVID relief for me. Okay, we had a motion, and just for clarity, before we vote, that motion was to approve the program as described, with the exception that it would exclude any new construction, residential or commercial. So this is for somebody who wants to put in a pool, redo their pavers, put in a fence, expand their driveway, do a remodel, things like that, that'll employ the local trades. But if someone wants to come in and build 1 or 55 new homes, they're paying all the standard fees. And that's a separate issue we'll talk about later of what the right amount of our permit fee should be. Any questions on the motion that we have in front of us?
Yes.
Yes.
So you're saying basically, let's just call him the little guy who wants to make improvements. He is exempt from the fee.
He would
when
not.
a large development comes in, he should pay that fee.
Correct. If a large development comes in of new construction, they would pay the fee, yes. But if your neighbor wants to add on a back patio, they get a break, and so they put one of our trades folks to work. Yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, with that, City Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
No.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sacks?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Reduction is approved. Carrie, if you give that more thought and find anything that gives you pause, you can always bring it back to us for change. Yes.
Just for thought, could we apply it to any permit that's applied by the property owner? That kind of excludes some of the larger developments and stuff.
When they're developing it, they are the property owner though, right?
I mean, you could have like an owner builder who pulls the permit, so an owner pulled the permits if it's his house and
Right.
he's living in it. So, but I'm not sure if that's from a legal standpoint.
I think what I heard was existing developed property qualifies for the credit.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that's what we passed.
owner-
I think he was.
If you're the owner and you're rebuilding your home, you qualify. If you're doing an addition, you qualify, whether it's under a contractor or owner's name. It's only that, initial clearing for commercial residential would not qualify.
And existing homes are what create the fund that we have.
Correct. That's a good point.
No.
So, I'm not a lawyer, but I slept in a Holiday Inn Express last night.
That's pretty good.
So, we're actually giving back to specifically the people who built that fund up.
That's a solid point.
If the permit fees were passed along to those people in their purchase prices, then yes.
But it was also the developer who pulls all these permits and then.
Yeah, but who pays
Yeah,
that?
but that's passed along to the
we all know who
homeowner
pays that.
that buys it.
All right.
Okay. I have some, I have a legal concern, so.
So again, if Carrie, after more thought, has concern, she certainly can let us know, and we can pause this until we can reconsider it. So I know we put her on the spot here on that one.
And this is delayed and it doesn't take effect until February, right, Brian?
We're saying estimated February 1st.
Yeah,
We have
you're
to
right.
get finance set up. We got new software rolling in. This is part of that, so.
So we have the next meeting. She can bring it back. If we have concern, we can pause at that time. Good call. All right, item 7D, this is for a limited use license agreement. This would allow us to use the sports complex as a distribution point. Staff has put a lot of work into this. You heard Fire Chief talk about it. We're all set to go. The only thing we're waiting on in this agreement is a date. Hopefully one or more dates in the future will come available that we'll be able to take advantage of. Unless there's anything you need to add, I just asked, do we have a motion to?
No, Mayor, just it's as a follow-up with what the chief was saying. So this site will be available if they bring in the vaccine and they wanted to have a distribution site in New Smyrna. It will be ready for them, and they have the lease agreement.
Okay. Do I have a motion on this item?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Are we charging for this lease? Are
This
they
one-
paying?
They are
This-
not paying.
This one,
Okay.
there's no charge in this lease.
Okay.
No, because this is
That's
the other
fine.
one was the state. This is the county.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Every city's clamoring to have one, so if we charge, if we go to the bottom of that list, I bet, so.
Don't forget though, gentlemen, it's a moving target. They're thinking of going back to the fairgrounds, so.
With it, yeah,
it's good
they're
to
there
keep it
now.
open.
Yeah, there's no date on this. We don't know when this could happen. We just want to have the groundwork laid
I would,
so
yeah,
that Kyle is ready to jump on it the minute we can, and we're still pushing as well, so.
works for me.
We had a motion, we had a second. City Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Colodi?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
That license agreement was approved. Ordinance 8A 119-20 is the second reading of public hearing. City Attorney will read it the second time by title only.
Ordinance number 11920, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 4, Officers and Employees to revise Section 2-147, Access to City Officials, and create a new Section 2-148, Land Use Matters, to establish consistency with Florida Statute 286.0115, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Go ahead.
So the background on this is Florida Statute 286.0115. It was originally created in 1995, and we based our Code of Ordinances 2-147 based on that statute. And it dealt with how to disclose ex parte communications in quasi-judicial matters. In 1996, the Florida statute was amended to take out land use matters. So ex parte discussions related to land use matters, you did not have to disclose those ex parte communications. Our code was never updated to be consistent with the Florida statute. And recently there was litigation where this was used against us, and it hinders our ability, the Commission's ability to speak with their constituents on different applications that appear before the board. So this amendment makes our Code of Ordinances consistent with Florida statute, and it says that the ex parte disclosures that are required in other matters are not required when it comes to land use matters. So this will change how we proceed with quasi-judicial items. We don't have to swear in people unless requested. There's no presumption of prejudice. If a constituent reaches out to you and wants to discuss a matter, it just makes everything go smoothly. And that's all I have.
Okay. So Carrie summed it up well, but basically, when you read stuff like this, the headline can sometimes lead you to think something that it's not. So we're just 20-something years overdue on this to catch up with the state guidance on this. And we just kind of suffered through this. And so basically what happened is we had someone that we had a public hearing and a quasi-judicial public hearing, and we had citizens that reached out and sent us emails as we encouraged them to do. And due to this technicality, because we hadn't caught up, we didn't catch every single email to make sure to send that over and fully disclose that. And again, these are conversations with the people that we report to as elected officials. And so that applicant became litigious and sought that as the reason why. And so in speaking to Carrie, realizing, hey, we're behind in how we are doing this anyway, and no doubt this is the reason why that was changed just 1 year after this program was first set up by the state back in 1995. It only took 1 year to realize, hey, that's not a great way of doing business. I actually have to commend Carrie. We have made changes in the past 2 years on how we've been more we've taken great strides in making sure we're fully disclosing everything that we are required to, and trying to be consistent with what was on our books at the time. But this is just setting us up to be even more transparent and communicative with the public. And it certainly doesn't mean, though, that anything, transparency is a key word, and it's thrown around a lot. But what it doesn't do is say, hey, deals can be made behind closed doors. Everything, basically what this says is everything, every amount of evidence that goes into making a decision on land use matters, even if we've had other conversations, even if we've talked to residents or representatives of the applicant or whoever, it says we're going to hear what is brought before us in these public meetings for the public to hear, for us to hear, all together at the same time, and that's what we'll use to make our decision. So everything is out there in the public that is used to make the decision. So I think it's a positive thing, and I commend Carrie for bringing us up to speed on this and avoiding future issues. All right, this is a public hearing. Anyone wish to speak to this item only, this 8A ordinance only? Seeing none here for that item, we will close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 119-20?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, City Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Cloney?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartman?
Yes.
Mayor Owen?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item 8B, ordinance 106-20. City Attorney will kick this off. And I think you've got to read something, and then you're going to give us some background on this.
Ordinance number 10620, an ordinance rezoning approximately 41.2 plus or minus acres of land generally located west of Turnbull Bay Road, south of Whispering Pines Drive, from Volusia County A3 Transitional Agriculture and RC Resource Corridor to City Planned Unit Development PUD zoning district, approving the Hidden Lakes Village Planned Unit Development Master Development Agreement, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective day. And just to clarify, so the ordinance we just passed applies to this item. So that means we'll still hear from the public, but we no longer have to swear witnesses in, unless a party requests that. The commission assigns weight and credibility to any testimony given as it deems appropriate. No person has been precluded from communicating directly with the member of the commission, and disclosure of the communications is not required, and any non-disclosure shall not be presumed prejudicial to this decision. The decision made tonight must be supported by competent, substantial evidence in the record before you tonight. That being said, in recognition of the transition we are in, the applicant has been provided with a set of ex parte emails that we could find, so I'll have them, somebody from the applicant come on up and acknowledge that you've received these ex parte emails.
Yes, my name is Ray Braddock, 529 Versailles Drive, Suite 210, Maitland, Florida, 32751. And I am part of the development team for Hidden Lakes Village. And yes, I was provided copies of the correspondence that came from the residents back to the
Okay.
commission.
And I'm going to ask each commissioner, do you swear or affirm that the vote tonight will be based solely on the written record submitted and the oral testimony given tonight on this item? I'll start here.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sacks?
I swear?
Yes.
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 And applicant, any objections to our proceedings tonight here?
No, not at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And so we can go ahead and kick this item off.
All right. So we have a question. Before, are you with the applicant or? Okay. Come to the mic so we can make sure that the court reporter hears you. But I think I'm going to have you speak later. But I just want to hear what you're.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. My name is Victor Chapman. I've identified myself. I'm an attorney for Golf Holding LLC, which is the Hidden Lakes Golf Course they're doing business as. I would like to object to the proceeding to the extent an ordinance that was in effect while the ex parte communications were conducted was subject to an ordinance that's just been essentially revised.
Yeah.
So respectfully, the provision of your code, and I can discuss that at some length, required the disclosure of those ex parte communications.
Which we
For
did.
purpose, well,
Okay, so just let me jump in here. I have an extra set of the emails that can be provided to you. Are you claiming third-party status, intervener status? Okay, so this is the first we're aware of that. So this is a procedural change in the law so that it can apply prospectively. It's not a substantive change in the law. But that being said, if you're requesting that we swear everybody in, is that what you're requesting?
Yes.
We can also, okay.
And with respect to the ex parte communications, and I was going to get into that occurred between members of the commission and the applicant, I wish for those to be disclosed.
Okay. So we have, and let me give you a folder of the ex parte emails, and then we'll ask the commission if they have anything further to disclose.
Yes, Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so she's going to give you copies of the emails. So we'll begin with Commissioner Colodi. And I don't have the exact wording in front of me of what that ex parte thing is, but basically, if you disclose any ex parte communications, and I want to make sure he hears this.
So,
Go ahead.
correct. So we have any emails you received from constituents. Now, are there any discussions that you had ex parte with the applicant or anybody else where you obtained information that you do not see in this record tonight? Is there any information you gleaned from those discussions that are not in the record?
There's nothing that's not in the record.
Okay, and can you identify, to the best of your ability, who you met with, what you talked about, the nature of those discussions?
Yes, I met with the applicant maybe 5 or 6 years ago to discuss his general idea as to what he wanted to do in the property. I also attended a Zoom meeting with the applicant and his development partners, and I believe the prospective purchaser of the project. I've not met with any residents. I don't even recall speaking with any residents. However, there was emails that were on my city email site, 1 or 2.
And what is the nature of the conversations on the Zoom call? Can you identify the participants on the Zoom call and the nature of the discussions?
No, I can't identify them all any better than I did. There was about 5 or 6 people. They were the developer, prospective purchaser, the existing owners. I'm not even sure if there was an attorney. The discussion centered around what their plans were for the property and the exhibits that they included in the information that is included in the packet here. There was nothing that I hadn't seen before in our record. At the time, it was a 30-minute meeting that started about 6 minutes late. I had a list of about 15 items I wanted to discuss, and we couldn't get through all of them. So it was a truncated meeting at best.
Sir, do you have any questions for Commissioner Colodi on his ex parte communications?
Yes, I do. Commissioner, were there any other commissioners on that Zoom meeting at the time you were there?
None.
Did you discuss that Zoom meeting with any other commissioners after the Zoom meeting?
None.
During that Zoom meeting, first of all, was a representative of my client, Mr. Eric Harrison, who is the owner of the company that runs the Hidden Lake Golf Course. Was he present on any of these Zoom
I
meetings?
don't believe so.
Do you know whether anyone invited him to be part of those meetings?
I would have no knowledge of that.
Do you, during these meetings with the applicant, were you asked to commit to supporting the project?
No, they never asked for that, and I wouldn't make my decision until I saw the full package.
And presumably also listened to the evidence and the comments made at this hearing, correct?
Correct. My background has to do with land development, so I was
Yes.
well aware of that.
Yes, sir, and you would agree with me that it would be highly inappropriate for a member of this quasi-judicial body to commit to support a project that's appearing before this quasi-judicial body, correct?
I can speak for myself and say that I wouldn't do any decisions prior to reviewing the full facts that have been presented and will be presented here.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'm going to jump around here. Just
Okay.
Commissioner Hartman,
Yes, ma'am.
besides emails that you have received from various residents, do you have any ex parte disclosures to make regarding this application before you?
I also partake in a Zoom meeting with the client and I believe the property owners. It was difficult to see who was actually there because mainly it was either the slide presentation or the applicant that's before us. So I don't know who else was on there. We spoke for about 30 minutes. I did receive a phone call from the present owners just asking if there was any additional questions or concerns I might have, and I said no, we would cover everything at the hearing.
Okay. And the substance of those discussions, this application, anything specific regarding this application?
No, none. They just, if I had any questions or concerns, and I said, we take care of it during the hearing.
Did you hear anything during that Zoom call that is not in the written record that is been published on the agenda tonight?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead.
Very briefly, Commissioner, was there any discussion during your Zoom meeting about an easement issue concerning my client's property?
Yes.
What was that discussion?
Just to the best of my recollection, there was discussion about whether or not the current owner had the easement or the previous owner had that easement documented and recorded, and which they said they did.
Okay. Was there any discussion about the breadth of the easement on the what we would refer to as the servient estate, my client's property? What it covered, what it didn't cover,
No.
anything of that sort?
No.
Any discussion about building a road on my client's property during your discussion?
The only discussion is that it had been evaluated by the fire marshal, and that the road would have to support a fire apparatus or something of that size.
Was there discussion about actually paving a road or something along those lines?
No, just whatever the fire marshal would approve, that it would support one of their vehicles.
Did the applicants during this discussion with you, did they ask you to commit to supporting their position?
No.
Any other ex partes that we need to disclose? Any conversations with citizens that occurred outside of email or anything that you can recall?
The only conversations with others was via email, which I forwarded to the clerk's office.
Thank you. Commissioner McGurk, any ex parte communications, if you could describe who you talked to, the nature of the conversation?
Historically?
In relation to this application, to the best of your abilities.
So I've been discussing with the applicant, Lee and Kathy Griffith, their development projects since it started. I'm not sure if you mean what this specific applicant, so I want to make that clear. So ex parte communications, I met with a group of Lake Fairgreen residents at Kate Minnick's house and discussed some of their concerns that they had about the project. Some expressed concern about the project. Others expressed that they supported the project.
Okay. Any specific concerns that you can think of that were addressed?
Yes, an emergency access road.
Okay.
Their view being ruined, and the removal of landscaping, trees, shrubs, that sort of thing.
And is there anything you've learned from any of those ex parte communications that you would be basing your vote on tonight that's not contained in the record?
No.
Okay. Sir.
Thank you. Commissioner, did you ever attend a Zoom meeting with the applicant?
Yes, I did.
How many Zoom meetings did you attend?
One.
And when was that?
A few days ago. I can't remember the exact date.
Now, you mentioned something about Kathy. What was Kathy's last name? Or
Griffith.
is Kathy's last name?
Kathy Griffith.
And what is her relationship to the applicant as you understand it?
Well, I think she's either the applicant or she was the applicant at one point.
Is she a friend of yours?
No, she's not.
Okay. And Commissioner, have you found in your dealings with this Kathy is she a truthful person?
Yes, she is.
I want to show you, I've distributed among all the commission a pamphlet with 4 items. I'll get into those when we get to my part, hopefully later. I want you to look under tab number 3. And you'll see there an email that's dated January 4, 2021. And it appears to be from Kathy Griffin to a number of people.
Hold on a second. I'm not
I'm
sure
sorry,
I
tab
see an
number 3.
email.
Tab number 3. It's after the 2 areas.
Yeah, if it's after the tab, I don't believe I see an email.
It's the page tab 3.
It's the page
Go
tab.
back
sir.
one page.
Okay,
We were
I have it.
saving
Thank you
paper.
very much.
Commissioner, read that email for me, because I'm going to ask you a handful of questions about what's said in that email about Ms. Griffith's conversation with you.
Okay, you want me to read the email in its entirety?
Just read it silently, and then this is going to be included in the record. And I'm going to ask you some questions about it.